I am not sponsored or affiliated with any of the companies of the platforms that I use. This video is just to show and demonstrate the applications I prefer to use for my personal project. Here you can see some of the images that I created that can be used to generate dialogue shots. They're just still images based on the scene and composition. One of the key tricks I like to use is having multiple images of the same shot. That way we can get different angles that we can edit back and forth with. So this is a close-up, this is a middle shoulder shot, and then we have the wider shot where you can see more of the body. The reason I use these three similar shots is that I could generate the dialogue multiple times and then switch between shots based on editing preferences. If there's mistakes, I could switch to a wider shot or a closer shot. If there's things I don't like, and sometimes there's shots that are really good that get emotion, you can cut in between shots to really emphasize certain emotional beats in what she's saying. Let's talk about lip sync. I'm gonna start off by speaking about my least favorite version of lip syncing. And these are the type of lip sync. They're provided by most video generation platforms. This is Kling's version. Looks pretty advanced, and to be honest, I haven't used their latest version. My first experience with this was not very good. So what you're looking at here was my very first ever experience with using Kling lip syncing. And as we get closer to the end, you can see this is not the best. Oh God! It distorted the face to the point where it was terrible. I don't know which looks worse, the skull in her hair or her face. This is kind of hilarious actually. Kling trying to compete with VO3.
It's just a division of me too, where it's out for the YouTube for it. It's the pain for me.
So they added in audio, but it can't actually speak, but it can make sounds of voices, apparently.
Dude, I'm fantasy and see which like we can sex place to be the most fat job one.
In the end, the real honest reason why I don't use this type of lip sync, the reason is because the mouth animation and the eyes do not match. Normally when you do this type of lip sync, it's only the mouth that's being animated, so the eyes do not follow. Even though this style of lip sync gives you camera motion and you can still have your chosen character action, it doesn't look correct because the eyes and the mouth do not match. That's the real reason I don't use this type of lip sync. It only animates the mouth and it doesn't give a proper performance with the entire face. This is Hedra, and I consider this my second favorite method of creating lip sync. Even though I only use it for lip sync, they have other features such as image generation. They have Flux Context Pro, which is a very good image generator. You can go in and make changes with text. So that's good for creating your character or your starting image. Most people tend to stick with their image generator of choice, like Midjourney or something else. They also have video generation features such as VO2, Minimax, Kling 2.1, Kling 2.1 Pro, and Kling 1.6. So you could generate regular videos, and there is their default, which is their own video generator, which is the one we use for lip sync. That said, on the free plan, none of the other video generators are available, and currently I'm on the free plan. It's really straightforward. The screen you're looking at now is the screen that you use to generate your lip sync images. At the bottom, you have your prompt window. You can choose your resolution, and their highest is 720p, and you can choose your aspect ratio. They have square, and then they have portrait and landscape. One of the benefits of using a platform like this is that you start with a still image and you use that to generate your video. What that means is the length of your final video can be as long as you need. For example, if your audio is 30 seconds long, your video can be 30 seconds long, which is really good for doing long segments of talking. So you can see in my history that the duration of these videos are all different lengths. This one is 7 seconds, this one is 12 seconds. Over here we have even 22 seconds. So it's based on the length of your audio. It's not a set length for the video duration. One of the downsides to using a platform like this is that there is no camera movement or minimal camera movement in the final video. So you can see here that even though she's speaking and animated, the background might move slightly, but overall there's no camera movement. It's a pretty static shot.
Just to let you know what I've been up to and what I have planned for the future. So let's get into it.
Just a quick look at the interface. You can see that I have an input image, and what's nice that I've never noticed is you can select if you have multiple faces. I only have one face here, but you can select the face that you want to put the lip sync on if you have multiple characters. So that's a good feature to have. And beside the image, you have your spot for your audio, and you can preview your audio here.
I never really know how to start these things.
And you can also crop your audio. You can trim the beginning and the end.
But in any case, I figure...
Also, you can generate your own voices, and apparently you can do voice changer on this as well. Features that I've never used because I just use a pre-recorded voice. One of the features I like about Hedra is you can prompt your character to do certain actions. Most of the times it doesn't really follow. It might and it might not, but simple actions like having the character move their hands and maybe the tone of their facial expression or their look on their face can be prompted. One of the things I like is that you can just have random prompts and it will generate random prompts for you. Person raises their hands up and down gleefully. And usually those ones, it usually does it. And you can keep on just hitting inspire me and it will give you random prompts. This one, I don't know if it works all the time. Person jumps up and down. Sometimes, most of the times, that one doesn't work. But I like to have fun with it and try different. Person looks away happily. I like to just push random and try different versions and see what comes out. I find with Hedra, you tend to get a pretty gritty and grainy looking image, and as well it has distortions a lot of the times, but you know, something you got to work with. So this is one of the clips where I used random arm gestures and it actually did it. It didn't look great, but it was fun to see.
So, what's new? Let's get it started. So, what's new? Let's get it started. So, what's new? Let's get it started.
The key to using something like this, even though it can generate long clips, you should try to generate multiple clips of the same dialogue and then edit those clips together to get the performance. Use the best parts because it can get boring looking at the same shot. Sometimes it makes mistakes and does distortions. You also want to try to use different views. For example, a wide view and a tight, closer view, and combine them together to make the shot more dynamic. That pretty much sums up Hedra. It's not complicated to use. You upload a still image of the character and you upload the audio that you want the character to say. It's optional if you want to insert a prompt and have the character do some sort of action. I no longer use Hedra because I feel that it's starting to look very similar for each generation. The acting of the character is becoming very generic. I would like to have something that's a little bit more specific to my project. Hedra tends to feel a little bit generic and the motions look all similar, and you can easily pick out a Hedra animation when you look at other people's work. I prefer to have a more unique look to my project. I used it for my last project because some reason they gave me a whole month free of credits, so I had to use the credits, so I decided I might as well use them for my project. My number one favorite lip sync tool is Act 1. Here we are at Runway's website, and all these shots you're looking at right here were lip synced in Act 1. At the beginning of this project, most of the lip sync was done with Hedra because I had a bunch of free Hedra credits. Ideally, I prefer to use Act 1 because, in my opinion, it has the greatest level of control. In my opinion, it is unmatched as far as the results you get. The process with Act 1 is definitely a little bit more involved. Let's say a lot more work than you would using any other platform, because typically you're generating video first, then you're adding the lip sync. So you have to pay credits to generate the video in whatever video generator you're using, and then you have to bring that video into Act 1 and add the lip sync on top, which is more credits. With all that said, I still think that it's worth it to use Act 1 because it gives you the ability to have camera motion on top of your lip sync. From what I understand, you can also use still images with Act 1. I personally have never used still images. That is also an option if you choose. But I prefer to stick with using videos because I can get camera motion and I can get motion of the character's hands and body if I choose. Within Runway's platform, you can generate videos from images. So you can start off there, or you can use any video generator that is your choice. Let's go through the process. I normally start with creating a video clip. So you can see over here, I have my input image and it's just a still frame I uploaded that was created. And that still is then converted into video, which you see one of the video renders here. I'm going to download this video. And this video I chose because it's just for this example. You can see her speaking. I have a little bit of handheld camera motion in there, as well as she's speaking. And I encourage that when you're doing a shot where you're going to put speaking on top, go for a shot that the character is already speaking. You don't want to do what some people do where they tell the AI to not have her speak, because that way the performance is going to be very stiff if she is not speaking. If you have a performance where she is already speaking, it will transfer to your face performance and blend them together. So let's download this clip. This talking is a little bit exaggerated, but we'll try it out and see what we get out of it. So here's another clip that I rendered to test, and I'm not sure if this one will work because her face is coming really close and getting cropped out of the frame, but we'll see. One benefit of doing it this way is that because you're using a regular image to video generator, you can prompt things like having the character using their hands and things of that nature. That way you can get a more expressive performance. You can speak on the mood or have the character do a specific action that you wouldn't normally get with something like Hedra. So this is usually my normal setup right here for filming. I got my camera set up on a tripod and my chair that I sit in. And in the background, I have this cabinet, and it really doesn't matter what the background looks like. So over here, you can see I also have this gray curtain, which is also probably a good section I could put my chair. But normally I like to set up where you can see here the sunlight is coming in from the window, and I have these blinds here that diffuse the light. So I like to put it in this section right here because I have the light coming directly versus if I sit over here, the light will be coming from the side and I don't want a shadow to be uneven. I'm sure that doesn't matter, but I gotta be perfect, you know? So I'm gonna try a different setup just for this video because I have this nice gray wall right here and it will look much better. And you could see it's a small space, so you could do this within a small area. And it's a good location because I also have this large window. That's my workstation over there, my AI workstation. So I have my camera set up and I have lots of natural light coming in from the window here directly over to this wall and the chair. It would give me a really nice even lighting. So over here we have this remote. Has just one button to hit record. Could also use my cell phone because there's an app, but too lazy. And then my camera set up. You can see with the ring light. I also have this microphone. You can see right here, it's a lapel or lav mic. It's very important to have this. So, here we go. What you're actually looking at here is me pretending to record a video to capture my facial performance, but in reality, I'm just making a fool of myself to show you how it's done. So as you can see, one of the very important things about using Act 1, in this method, I need to capture audio as well as to capture my facial performance because I'll be converting my voice into the character's voice after with AI. So that is how we get the audio in synchronization with the visual. It's because I'm actually recording the audio at the same time as I'm doing the facial performance. All right, so let's talk about some of the limitations with Act 1. You have to have the face performer within the frame. So the face can't be cropped or obstructed. As you can see, I'm using my hands. You can't use your hands in the performance. The background doesn't necessarily have to be a solid background. You can actually use any kind of background and it will still recognize the face. I just chose to use the solid gray background for this particular video so that it's not too distracting for the viewers. Your facial performance has to be really exaggerated because Act 1 doesn't pick up every little single nuance of your facial performance. So you gotta really be exaggerated with your eyes, your eyebrows, your cheeks, and your facial expressions so that Act 1 can pick it up and it will come through the performance of the AI character.
Examples that I'm going to show, you'll see that I'm overacting.
I'm really hamming it up, really going crazy as far as extra eyebrow movement, extra blinking, things like that. Really getting expressive when I speak, like really using my mouth and my facial expressions. The other limitation with Act 1 is you're not supposed to turn or move your head as you're doing your performance because as you do this, it messes up the tracking. I had a shot where the character spoke and because I moved my head, it added some jittery motion into the final performance, which messed up the final performance, but I wish that I had not moved my head so much. Right now, because I'm not actually using this performance to drive my Act 1 character, I could speak freely. But let's get into it and I'll show you some examples of how I use Act 1 within my workflow to animate my AI character. What I do here is go through clips that are potentially going to be used to drive the animation for the facial performance. So then I'll look through and see what performance I feel is the best that will suit the character or what I'm going for. This is a demo of Runway's Act 1, and I think it's pretty cool. Once I decide on that, I'll take the clip and bring it in to the editing. Here I am in my video editor. So I start off by dragging in the clips that I want to edit. So what I've done now is bring in the clip of my reference footage. This is the footage that's going to drive the animation. As you immediately notice that if I line them up here, you can see that my reference clip is much longer than the actual video that I want to lip sync. So it's important at this stage that you clip your reference to match the size of your input. The reason you do this is because if your reference image is a longer duration than the image you want to sync, the shorter video is going to loop. It's going to play forward, and then when it gets to the end, it's going to reverse and go backwards. That is something I really don't like. I always make sure to crop my clips so that they're the same duration. You can consider this as sort of a limitation because most video generators only generate 5 to 10 seconds worth of footage. So your performance has to be within 5 to 10 seconds. And that's where later you can edit clips together to get a full performance. In order to line up the clips how I prefer, I'm going to take the clip that I want to sync and hide it so that it's not visible. I will turn on the snapping mode so that I could snap the clips together. I'm just going to start adjusting by cropping down the longer clip. I have the audio playing so that I could listen to the parts that I want. This is a demo for, and I'm gonna adjust and try to align it. This is a demo for Runway's Act 1. And you're not allowed to cut and have jump cuts in the middle. It has to be a continuous clip for both. So you're going to try to fit them in as best you can. Now that my clips are aligned and they're the same length, at this point you're going to export your clips so that you could bring them into Runway. So here we are back in Runway. I'm going to start out by dragging in the video that I would like to be synced. Now I'm about to drop in the video. This is the video of me doing my performance that I want to use to control the character. And you can see it will analyze the video and see if it detects a face. Within the browser, you can preview the clip that you've uploaded. You could even play. Is a demo for Runway's Act 1. So that's the cropped clip, and you can see that it's 5 seconds, and the clip down here is 5 seconds as well. Before you generate, you have a few options. Here is the intensity of the motion. I normally leave it at the default. I tend to prefer the sharper look from Gen 3 Alpha Turbo than the softer look from Gen 3 Alpha. That said, Gen 3 Alpha Turbo is also the cheaper model, so you'll save a lot of tokens using Gen 3 Alpha Turbo instead of Gen 3 Alpha. And now I hit generate, it's going to start generating. And normally once it says 20%, you know it's good to go. Here it is. This is what we've got. This is a demo for Runway's Act 1. This is a demo for, and yes, it has my voice. We'll have to still go in and do the voice changer to give it the character's voice. I tend to find that certain facial expressions like winking one eye or sticking out your tongue, Act 1 normally doesn't recognize those gestures. I had a moment where I was trying to get a character to wink, and instead of winking, Act 1 would just close both eyes. So there's a lot of interpretation going on with Act 1 as far as what the performance is and what actual is generated. So it's not one-to-one representation of what's happening within the face and then what's being put out. It is interpreting and then translating it to the character. This is why this platform is my favorite platform. I'm going to play it without any sound. If you look at the facial performance, you really notice that it captured so much of the nuances of my performance. You can see the eyeballs moving left and right exactly as I did. And what's really important to me is that not only the eyeballs are moving, The eyebrows are also moving as I moved in my performance. But the main thing of all, the entire face, that's the eyes, the eyebrows, the mouth, are all moving in synchronization. That really helps to sell the performance, because the eyes blinking, the eyebrows moving, and the mouth moving together to create that performance is what brings it to life. It's still capturing the small movements of my tongue when I speak. You can see that the tongue is kind of halfway out as the character stops to think. That comes from me, which is my characteristic that is captured within the character. And those little nuances help to bring the character really to life. Let's jump over to 11 Labs real quick and do the voice changer. So you would upload your audio. In this case, since the video file is pretty small, I'll upload the exact same video I used to drive the facial animation. You can preview the audio. This is a demo for Runways, and now on the side here I could pick the character voice. Normally for this character I use one of these two, this one here.
The 90s were fun because it was a time full of new trends.
That's one of the voices I like to use. Here's the other.
There is no greater harm than that of time wasted.
It tends to have a little bit of my personality when you do the final output. I think that adds even a little bit more uniqueness to the character's final voice, because my speech pattern is also embedded into the performance. And we'll say generate speech.
This is a demo for Runways Act 1.
At any time, you can swap out and change either the driving performance, or you can change the output image. Let's try to change this image right here to another image that has a totally different outfit, same character, different outfit, and also this has a different aspect ratio. Let's see if the performance transfers over from this landscape, which is the driving video, to this portrait view of the character. So let's check it out. This is a demo for Runways Act 1.
This is a demo for Runways Act 1.
And you can see it works even though there were different aspect ratios. And if you notice, the head movements that are happening are not because of my head movements. The head movements that are happening are because that the character was prompted speaking. So those head movements are coming from the original generation. And it just looks like they're my head movements only because the facial performance is tied in with the movements. It sometimes helps to pay attention to what the character is doing and tailor your driving performance to what's happening on the screen. It's also very important to think about where your eyes are looking, right? Because if the character is speaking to someone and the character is looking to the left, you want to do your performance with your eyes to the left. That said, you can't turn your head to the left. You can only turn your eyes to get the character to look to the left. For example, if you want the character to look directly straight, sometimes within the video, the character's head is turned. So you don't have to turn your head. You could just look straight and it will look like the character is looking away from the camera because the character's head is turned. The character will look straight over to the left even though you're looking straight towards the camera, if that makes any sense, right? It's a bit complicated, but you really have to think about this sometimes. So this is a perfect example of me not looking in the right direction. Because the performance was created independently of the original clip, I wasn't thinking about where the character was looking and in what position the character's head was in. So my eyes are not really looking towards the camera. Not in every case you're going to want the character to look towards the camera. But in a situation where it's like an interview, the character is normally looking towards the person they're speaking to, in this case, the viewer. In this situation, the solution would have been for me to look to the left and slightly downwards to correct her eye position.
And I think it's pretty cool. This is a demo for Runway's Act 1. 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 I think my microphone is dying. That sucks.